Just got in from going on a nice lunch. Might as well say like a lunch date with a good friend of mine. Her name is Queen. And we went to a really nice place. It's like a brunch. You sit there and you know what a brunch is. I don't have to explain it. But she was talking to me about my isolation video and the video after that. And she also saw the last video that I made last night. And so what she was telling me about my isolation video, because she I've been knowing Queenie since 2000, let me see, like 2015. 15. She's a younger woman, because I'm not ashamed to admit that I like younger women. I like them young. I don't like young girls. I said I like younger women. And so she's like 30, 37 years old. And so what she was talking about in terms of the isolation video, she was commending me because she also knows that I have a personal collection of videos and writings and everything that I keep to myself for the sake of leaving those writings and certain footage behind for my sons to explore when the creator gives them a designated time of when they should observe certain things. That's part of the movement of the life journey, time. You know, but what she was telling me, she said, I think that was great what you did, and she said it took a lot of courage for you to put yourself out there and like that, and to be really honest about how you feel about everything. And she said what I thought was very moving about it is that you make you put yourself in a position that is considered vulnerable in order to help humanity as a whole. And when we were sitting there talking about that, and I told her, think about this. Why is it that we have to muster up a certain percentage of of courage in order to express ourselves honestly? And we talked about that, and what we both came up with is the fact that the human family has become so petty and so critical and so intellectually and emotionally and spiritually violent towards one another. That's one of the reasons why a lot of us are afraid to open up ourselves to one another, because we spend a whole lot of time um, attacking one another. And that's one of the reasons why the world is in the shape that it's in terms of our social environment. This is the reason why a whole lot of people don't feel comfortable opening up to one another. And in terms of the last video, she had asked me about that, and I told her that I saw greatness in this pastor when I went to his church, because of his, not only his relationship with the church members, but his interest in dealing with the youth. I mean, he's very concerned about the youth. And so one of the reasons why I put um, my ex to talk to him, I wanted to schedule an appointment to talk to him, because I saw greatness in him, and I still see greatness. And I think that he would be a great asset over on the West Side. However, what I was explaining to her, and it's not just him in particular, it's a whole lot of pastors that I've come in contact with, to where they want to do good things, and they know that they should, based upon the method that Yeshua left behind, the example, that a lot of these men have become afraid of going in certain areas, and through their fear, they bow down to fear, and fear has become their god. And you know how Yeshua has said, if a man, anyone who loves his life more than the gospel, I'm pretty sure that I'm paraphrasing, but I'll put it like this. Basically, what he was trying to say, you have to love humanity more than you love your own life. And that's the only way that humanity is going to become better. You can't love yourself more so than the mission. And the mission is not based upon any religious doctrine or anything like that, because you live your life every day. You look around and you see a whole lot of things that's going on in the world. And you would be willing to speak on it or go into these environments that are hostile to speak what is right. But a whole lot of us, and I will say us, a whole lot of us have been taught in various fashions to be afraid of what we need to face and resolve for the betterment of society. And that way we can start establishing the kingdom on earth. And see, what a lot of people don't understand is that establishing the kingdom of heaven is only doing humanitarian work to make environments better for the youth and more safe for the elders. That's all it is. That's all it is. And everybody can accomplish that if they would just be responsible. It doesn't mean you have to be a Christian, a Muslim, or any other sect in the community. Because when I was coming up in Chicago, in my particular neighborhood, we had Christians, we had Methodists, we had Catholics, we had Muslims, we had pretty much everything. We even had atheists in our community. But our community was very much in order. Even though I came up on the south side of Chicago, I resided in an area that was titled Chatham Village. And I said before, it was an area to where a whole lot of our elders, they didn't just have common jobs. I'm not putting people down who have common jobs, but it was an area to where you just couldn't have a common job. You had to have a career. And so most of the adults over there had careers. They had careers. And so I didn't experience in my environment of any families really struggling. You know, what the elders did over there, and their being productive, what they did, they established a very safe community for us. I mean, it was beautiful to be able to walk outside or sit on your porch and not get shot, or walk up to the store for your great grandmother or your mother and get something for them, and they didn't have to worry about you catching a bullet. And see, all of that comes from the adults being productive. And what had happened is that when the adults in being productive and the moral principles that we were taught, that is one of the reasons why our neighborhood was safe. But as the elders started to pass away, when our parents, who those elders passed down that information to them, once they started compromising, that's when things started to fall apart. You know, when they went to the discos, and you know, the marijuana came in, the cocaine and all of that, and a whole lot of our parents and their friends fell victim of those vices. You know, the loose living and all of that. You know what I'm talking about. As a matter of fact, I could just I could just make it plain. If you want to know what we suffered, in the 70s, which manifested a condition in the late 70s going into the 80s. The only thing that you have to do is take some time and listen to the earlier hip hop and just listen to what they were talking about. You know, people like NWA, Brother Tupac Shakur, and the effects of those environments gave birth and function to a group called Public Enemy, where you had Flavor Flav and Chuck D. I love those brothers. I'm kind of excited right now because I just had a really nice time. But Public Enemy ended up being my favorite hip hop group because they spoke on a whole lot of political issues, and those brothers did their homework. Those brothers did their homework. But going back to what me and Queenie was talking about, is that I have never been the type of man where I was afraid to express myself. And I'm very much aware of when you put yourself out there like that, you put yourself out there at risk of being mocked, attacked, and all of that. And by me knowing that, I feel like, well, my creator is not fear. And so the fear of being mocked and called a simp and all that stuff, that stuff doesn't move me. That stuff doesn't move me. What's most important to me is fulfilling what I know that I was down here for. And I'm very much aware that the harshness of the experiences that I've been through in life, I'm supposed to endure those, and I'm supposed to accumulate information and understanding and clarity, not just for myself, but for others. You know, there's a saying that says, and I'm pretty certain that you've heard it numerous times. It is knowledge is power, and knowledge is power. You know, however, what you do with that particular power, that determines morally if you're doing, speaking, or utilizing that knowledge effectively for the betterment of humanity, or to attack others and to enslave others and to manipulate others. So that's dual component when it comes to knowledge. And that's what the creator was telling Adam and Eve: stay away from that tree of the knowledge of good and evil, because obviously the knowledge of good and evil is a dual constitution of information that can be utilized one way or the other. And I talked to a pastor not too long ago, and I was telling him, I said, you know, having contained that knowledge of good and evil, and for the creator to tell them and basically point to them, point to the tree and tell them, don't eat from that. In other words, leave that be, leave that be. That implies a historical account that none of us have ever been told. So it's a sacred past of where this knowledge of good and evil emanated from. For the creator to see this information, which is knowledge, as a detriment to the human family instead of a beneficial factor when it comes to us. However, once we get ourselves involved in the knowledge of good and evil, this is the reason why the world is messed up. So people will say, well, had we not messed up and given ourselves to the knowledge of good and evil, which caused the spiritual death, beforehand, what state of intellectual, you might as well say, existence were we in? We didn't have any intellectual. The creator um, spoke the word and they obeyed and just did it. But when you give yourself to the knowledge of good and evil, which is a dual constitution, as I said, when you possess knowledge, when the Creator says, do thus and so, due to the fact that we have that dual knowledge of good and evil emanating in us and living in us, we tend to question why. And when we question why, that's where we mess up, because the Creator didn't create us to question for us. And so this is why I believe that the Creator was basically saying that this is going to cause us spiritual death, because we contain knowledge. Now we become religious, we become political. And in those primary areas of existing, nothing has separated mankind more than religion and politics. And this is why the earth is suffering right now, because of those two constitutions of knowledge of good and evil, whether it's politics or religion. And so what we have to understand is that the only thing that is going to make the world a better place, we have to become better human beings. And like I said before, I saw greatness in him, and I still see greatness in him. You know, and I see greatness in a whole lot of the brothers that are going around with me right now, and even Queenie's going to come on board to see what she can do. You know, where she can be utilized at in terms of the young ladies and everything, because she also had a very good upbringing. And she's a sister. She's Black and Irish mixed. Her mother is full-blooded Irish, and her father is what is called African American. And so I was also telling her that we going to have to start dropping those titles, because those titles, those racial identities, doesn't do anything but separate us. Think about this. I not too long ago went to a boxing match out here with Brother Crawford, and I don't recall the other brother's name. I'm very good friends with Mike Tyson, and so I'm able to get tickets to go to any fight that I like. And so I'm sitting there in the third row, and I'm watching these two men legally brutalize one another. And so I'm looking up at this brother. Crawford he was almost like doing cosmetic surgery on this brother's face. And I'm like, wow. And you know, I'm a boxing trainer, and I work with the youth. And so that's my compromise, because I'm not supposed to be teaching these young people to brutalize other human beings. And so that's my flaw that I'm working on. And I'm grateful to have been able to go to that fight and watch what I'm creating, help creating back there in these different boxing gyms, like Top Rank, you know, and other those things. So that's a issue that I'm dealing with right now. I'm trying to I'm pulling myself away from the boxing world, because of course, a lot of us know sports came from Rome. And so not too long ago, I said that Paul was wrong when he said, do what the Romans do. And I'm saying that Paul was wrong, but look at what I'm doing. And so once you understand where you're falling short at, then you have to go through that period of death to where Yeshua had explained, suffer it be so, and you let the dead bury their dead. So in other words, David, now that you know that, you have to die. And as much as you love boxing and obviously love seeing two people, whether male or female, brutalize one another, you must let it go. And so in a whole lot of worldly things, if you keep your mind open, you understand why Rome started under Nero, killing the disciples and feeding them to the lions. Because when the disciples were over there in Rome, they were trying to get the people to let go of those games and the principles, the evil principles of those games. And it's like Gladiator. I would suggest, if you haven't seen the movie Gladiator, check that out and check out the director's cut, because it shows in an instance of how they set the disciples in the middle of the Colosseum and they just let the lions just devour them. I mean, just eat them up. And the only thing that the disciples were trying to do was to let people know that the Roman culture is detrimental to your soul. So there's a whole lot of things that we enjoy observing that we shouldn't love those things. So I'm in the process of removing myself from the boxing world, because I understand the reason why Yeshua inspired them to speak against those things, like sports, because each sport has its own violence to it and brutality. Your team, my team, my favorite boxer, your favorite boxer. We shouldn't be involved in those things. And if you look from my generation, when you had the Muhammad Ali's, but even going back to Brother Jack Johnson, who was the first heavyweight champion of the world. And if you go all the way to the present, and if you see the all of the violence that is involved in those same areas, it's just getting worse. And so it's going back to the days of Rome, when there's no referee, and these guys are just really brutalizing each other. And I know you see it, and I see a whole lot of it, because I live out here in what is quote unquote Sin City, of where a whole lot of Christians take their vacations. So we all have a whole lot of work to do. But all at the same time, I would suggest people be a whole lot more open and don't worry about what other people are going to say and think of you. What's most important is expressing yourself honestly. And it's a shame that a lot of us feel as though that we can't do that because of the ignorance and the childish responses of the world. However, I think that if people would learn how to express themselves a lot more honestly, then the world would become a better place, And what I like about a whole lot of brothers that I'm seeing on this YouTube thing, even though they are a part of the manosphere, and I don't consider myself that, I do appreciate what Brother Angry Man is doing, the Lapeef, Let's Talk, Anton Daniels. I love what those brothers are doing, because they are honestly expressing themselves, and they are helping society resolve a whole lot of issues. And so I think that if everybody would find their place in this world society and just openly and honestly express yourself, then sooner or later you're going to look around and better generations are going to come up, because people are starting to put forth an effort to try to resolve a whole lot of the issues in our society. Because unless we communicate and talk to one another, then nothing's going to change. And if we refuse to communicate with one another and stop and if we refuse to communicate with one another, then we only advocate what's going on in society and what's swallowing up the world. And so that's pretty much a whole lot what me and Queenie was talking about. And so I just know that we can do better. I just know that we need to start making ourselves a whole lot more available. My Zoom keeps crashing. I think I done wore it out so much. But I have to cut this video short anyway. But like I said, I just think that we need to make ourselves a little bit more available. We need to die to our fear. We need to die to loving our life so much that we're not willing to give a hand to other people who are having it complicated in life. I mean, if things are well and good for ourselves, then I don't see no reason why a lot of us can't understand the fact that the reason why we have been equipped to be as where we are in life is strictly for ourselves, and not know that the reason why we're in this position is so that we can help others come up. So that's pretty much what blessings are. You're not blessed strictly for yourself. You're blessed so that you can bless others, and that's what it all boils down to. Whether it's information or whatever the case may be, but we have to start living for one another and stop trying to live our lives strictly for only ourselves. So with that being said, I need to end this video because I work from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning. And right now it is, let me see, 4:17 p.m. here. So I'm gonna have to get off of here so I can get some rest. And so with all that being said, I appreciate anyone's attention with this, but as I said, we have to become more responsible for one another. And with that being said, everybody stay human and have a good evening. Have a good evening.